Welcome, everybody, to the Minions of the Zoo. And it's Tuesday night. That means your keeper is me, Skep Tock. And with me, I have one minion, the Harry Channel. How you doing, Harry?
I'm doing okay.
And here at the final evening of my of my life, the final evening of my life, wherein I will be able to say that I'm less than 70. For tomorrow, I turn 70 years old. Hard to believe, but that's the truth.
See,
And
you put the where clause at the end. That's the thing,
yes.
it's like statement, and then the where clause is so far down. It's like, where's he going with this? Okay.
Anyway, so it's been an interesting 70 years. Things have changed a little, and it's been a long, strange trip. But anyway, it's didn't really do too much today. I'm mostly rested, but that had to do with I've been doing just some, more yard work than and garden work and farm work than I'm accustomed to doing, and all the while, yeah, all of that is at cross purposes to the healing of my right arm, which I managed to mess up walking a dog. So anyway, my life is full of trivia. I guess you'd put it. I hope you've had a more interesting day than I have. How was your day, Harry? Did you ever do anything fun today?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's just work stuff. I know something came up in work today. I don't think, okay, either I'm not nearly as funny as I think I am, or I'm
Yes.
just talking to the wrong audience. I was trying to explain something to a group of people I've been working on for a while. There's been this problem that's been bugging me.
Okay.
And what I told them was what I thought might be a majestic unicorn turned out to be kind of a ratty looking old horse named Dusty. And
Just sway back.
I said, it's not
Piebald
a,
sway back.
this problem is not some fantastic unicorn. It's the horse that they put the kids on who've never ridden before at the Dude Ranch.
Right. Right.
He doesn't know how to ride. Let's just put him on Dusty.
No.
Anybody
They
can
all
ride Dusty.
right. They all have names like Dusty or Maisie or
Yeah.
Buttercup.
Maybe not Megan the Stallion on Dusty. I don't think Dusty deserves that.
Depends which. No, I'm not going to go there. Um,
But
I
yeah,
can't get,
I
yeah, I
try
can't get
to,
the visual out of my mind.
well, I try to amuse people, and more often than not it works, but I think sometimes I just confuse people. And God knows that that's a real problem that I have
Well,
whenever I'm dealing with anybody who speaks English as a second language, because I speak in a way that screws people up. Sorry, go ahead.
well, no, you're part of your problem is that with most of the people you're dealing with, particularly in business, even at the upper management layer, you're dealing with about a probably anywhere from 15 to 30 point IQ differential, and
Mm.
that is almost the equivalent. And I'm not saying that for any reason. That really is a hazard with you. Uh, that something that will seem funny to you and just clear and interesting will seem puzzling to other people. I bet that's happened to you.
Oh, I'm sure it has. Well, I talk a lot about trust, that
Yeah.
trust is an important thing. And there's lots of different ways that people establish trust.
Yes.
So if if you were going back, I don't know, about 90 years, right?
Hmm.
If you were talking to somebody and you made an allusion to something that was in literature, and it's in the body of literature that you would expect a well-educated person to know,
Right.
and then this person responded, you, in a way that lets you know that they understood,
Hmm.
you would know volumes about that person by that alone. You
Right.
wouldn't need a copy of their transcripts. You
That's
wouldn't
so true.
need to see their CV because the secret handshake just took place between the two people.
It's like a coded message.
It's like a coded message. in the same sense that, you know, if two people shake hands and the person doesn't, they give you this kind of limp, half-hearted handshake type thing, you know, that
It's
detracts
another
from
coded
trust.
message.
It's another coded message. So, you know, everything about you, from your haircut to the way you dress to the way you speak to the things you speak about, says volumes about you. And I do think that the fragmenting of society, and particularly of the generations, has made things a lot worse than they ever were. Because it was always in the 50s, you know, them damn kids and their rock and roll music. You know, you didn't have a
Right.
common musical frame of reference. But in group, you could say, oh, yeah, I think Bobby Darin's version of Mac the Knife is the good one. You know, so you could have some sort of basis for conversation. But at the base of it all, it's all about trust.
Right.
You know, who do you trust and who do you not trust? You know, and that's really important, because I think as social animals, it's really important for us to kind of feel that sense, because trust leads to camaraderie. Camaraderie is, you know, immensely important, because I don't think that we're really cut out to be, most people are not cut out to be solitary animals,
No,
unless you're just a sociopath.
yeah, or old. But you know, depending on how normative a culture or society is, you know, in other words, how many distinct norms pervade that society to where deviation from that norm is extremely notable, you know, can lead to societal sanctions or cultural sanctions, whatever. Uh, we've changed from being that normative society. That there was nothing more normative than the early 20th century of the United States. You know, and we decided to change one of those big norms. We decided to give women the vote. You know, back in the, what was it, the 20s, right? And that represented a huge change for us, and there was substantial resistance uh, to that, and it made for a very conservative, slow changing society. Throughout the 20th century, we became better at changing faster, and I'm not sure that's a good thing. Uh, I look at the um, fragmentation of society now, the complete fragmentation of what we considered cultural norms, societal norms, into, you know, whatever you want is fine, and but you better take these political positions, or you know you'll be sanctioned. That's the new normative aspect of society. Is they they want to have rules for behavior that are enforced by the government. That is antithetical to the American experiment. I can't believe I'm seeing this in my dotage, that America has turned into this place of just complete nihilistic um, valueless hedonism. And I know that, you know, every generation has old people who say this, you know, new generation, they're not worth anything. But we really have had some rule changes that were not present in the 19th century. Certainly were not present in the 19th century. Good God. I mean, they had trouble, you know, figuring out the slavery thing. But those have, it's, society has become slippery, completely without norms, and that can be a scary place to live. I don't
Mm.
know. I'm not sure that I'm making a lot of sense here, but what uh, the the permissiveness, the lack of societal norms, has made life a lot less predictable. That's for sure, and has certainly made the soft parts of society, particularly the arts, uh, More interesting. I'll just put it that way. It's probably illegal to say anything bad about compositions such as "What Ass Pussy." Is that the name of the song?
Yeah.
And that was by Schumann, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or was it Megan Thee Stallion? One of those great composers.
Yeah.
Berlioz, one of them, right? And so we have to talk about Megan Thee Stallion in the same honored terms that we talk about Schubert or Mozart, right?
Well, we could, but I'm not going to. But the point,
watching.
Well, the point is that in a lot of ways, the norms that I was talking about are means to an end.
Okay.
Right? So the point of the sort of the shared lexicon is to let people know about in-group, out-group preference, right? Because most people historically until very recently have had an in-group preference, meaning if you're from my tribe, I got your back. And that's sort of the way it works. Now, that's manifested itself in some pretty ugly ways throughout human history.
Yes, it has.
I mean, really, really ugly ways. And as humans add a few more coats of varnish to the veneer of civilization, it's probably good to recognize the bad parts of that, to keep the good and get rid of the bad. You know, kind of like we've done with Christianity. People try to keep the good, get rid of the bad. You know, all these types of things tend to grow up as humans grow up. But the rate of change thing you're talking about is a problem because our social maturity is nowhere near keeping up with our intellectual maturity, as a for instance. But going back to the arts thing, I think we have to find other ways to basically establish trust. You know, certainly in terms of any kind of online communications, there's all sorts of systems that are in place that you use to develop trust with somebody. You don't have to have read the same books or gone to the same kind of school or had the same education. You just evaluate whether somebody is reliable based on their history over time. Reliable meaning different things in different contexts.
Assuming you have access to that data, assuming that you can know that about them.
Yeah, but it's given that we can deal with data differently than we did before, it really isn't necessary to, for one Eaton person to let the other Eaton person know that they're both Eaton people, right?
It's wear the old school tie.
So, moving forward into this, boldly into this current century, which we're 1/5 of the way through already, it's, you have to think about what trust means. So after the last show, after you left on the Saturday show, I realized as we were talking about something, I don't even know how it came up, that I had some pictures, some class pictures of me from kindergarten through 3rd grade. And so I go and I pull them out of a book and I scan them, and I was showing them to the people that were hanging around, and it was fun for them to try to guess which person they thought I was in these pictures. And eventually I, outed myself, and a good time was had by all. But see, that's me displaying the fact that I trust the people that are there. So when you share a little bit of yourself with people, it's a way of establishing trust. You're saying, look, I'm putting a little bit of myself out there so that you know that I trust you. It's a demonstration. It's like a trust fall. So we have all these little internet trust falls that we do. But in real life, what's trust now? Is it running somebody's credit rating? Looking up somebody on some blacklist?
No, it's because you don't trust them.
Yeah, but it's just, how do you decide
it's in place of trust?
Yeah, we used to go to the bank, and then the guy would get a measure of the cut of your jib, and then they decide whether they're going to give you money or not.
That's absolutely right.
And that's not the way it works anymore. So our stuff is not only abstract, but we're even getting AI involved in who gets to be trusted. Are you going to be allowed to go to a foreign country? I don't know. Some AI algorithm might decide whether it's actually worth the risk of letting you leave or letting you come back. Think about how much fun that is, because I totally am looking forward to a computer deciding whether I'm trustworthy. I mean, I confuse people enough. It's just going to be that much worse with the damn computer. But anyway, there was something I wanted to mention to you because I realized something the other day. And I don't mean to talk about trans stuff all the time, because I mean it's certainly important to the people who are sort of in that community. I'm not trying to say it's not important, but in this, there's all sorts of other things that are important too, and a lot of trans stuff just gets way more bandwidth than it probably needs to 100% of the time. Okay.
Yeah,
Things come up and, there's times when you talk about it, but it just seems like we're constantly talking about it. So I apologize in advance for bringing it up again. But I was looking for something to listen to, and I had, I think, some sort of Apple podcast thing loaded. I was checking out. I never listened to that one. And there was a thing on Switched on Bach. I actually wanted to listen to Switched on Bach because I don't have it on my phone. But instead, I got a conversation between these two Australian women who look for old records and talk about them. And so the conversation about Switched on Bach started up. And as they were having this conversation, the little bit of, they were talking about Wendy Carlos did this, Wendy Carlos did that. Wendy Carlos was a pioneer. Wasn't she wonderful?
Okay.
And I realized that the first exposure that I had to anybody being trans, the first person I ever even knew this was an option for, was Walter Carlos.
Was Walter Carlos, yeah.
Walter Carlos was one of the pioneers of electronic music and did a lot of amazing stuff. And there's a lot of movie soundtrack stuff that people have probably heard. So even if you're not like a complete nerd like I am, you've probably heard stuff that Walter Carlos did and didn't realize it.
That's true.
But as I'm listening to this discussion, because these people are trying to be very respectful, the idea is we don't dead name people, right?
Right.
But the story that they were telling was woefully incomplete because we were pretending that the past was different than it was. That transgenderism is a key part of the story, and you can't discuss it if you pretend it isn't there. And it diminishes the story. The story that other people were hearing was much less interesting than the truth that I knew about. That is the thing I wanted to bring up with you. Because I don't want to be a dick to people, and I understand that when people transition, a lot of people don't want to be dead named. But I think we, in a lot of ways, pretending that people don't have, I'm using the liberal thinking, the progressive thinking. They always talk about lived experience, but we're actually completely ignoring one of the most important parts of these people's lived experience in the way we discuss them when we don't dead name them. And to my way of thinking, this is worse than the alternative. Because if you have somebody following you around who refuses to use your new name, that's one thing. But rewriting somebody's history, especially somebody who is really influential, takes the story and makes it smaller.
Right.
I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out at you because I figured you probably had some thoughts on it.
Yeah. Okay. The whole trans thing covers such a multitude. The only thing that all the members of the so-called trans community have in common is that they were, for whatever reason, motivated to change their gender. And in recognizing that some of the, well, you have to recognize this, that some of the people are absolutely sincere. They have, real problems in the equipment that God gave them, and they need to do something about that, and they will not be happy. They absolutely will not be happy until they do something about it, whatever that happens to be. Those are the people who are sincere about this. There are a tremendous number of proverbial trans trenders, and as long as they get this increased volume of attention that we're currently offering to that community right now. It's not really a community. The only thing they have in common is that they changed their gender. The motivations and levels of dissatisfaction and everything about them are completely different. To pretend that they're all the same, which is what the popular press does, is absurd. So part of our problem is we have a national misperception of something as whole and largely homogenous, where actually it's very heterogeneous. There are a lot of different entities in the transsexual pool with lots of different motivations. Not all of them are honorable. Some of them are just out to get attention. Others are just trying to troll people. I'm sure you've heard about the Canadian teacher who wears those enormous false breasts. That they're
the shop teacher. My safety goggles are up here.
Yeah, exactly. Those are and this was a guy who was chastised a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago, for coming out against woke culture, thinking that it was stupid, it was destroying Canada and all this stuff. And he let some of his students know that, and he almost lost his job for that. I actually think he might be trolling the back. It would be a hell of a troll if he's doing it. I think he is actually protesting the wokeism by saying, okay, I'm just going to shove this down your throat. See what you think about this. And if that's his motivation, I can understand it. I would be pissed off too. If I had a legitimate criticism of something and almost lost my job for simply speaking my mind. Of course, I'm American. I'm accustomed to free speech, which Canada does not have anymore, apparently.
No.
Oh, Jenna's here. And Jenna joins the stream. Hi, Jenna.
Hi. I just like you could see me.
we were just talking about stuff
and things. Yeah.
Stuff and things and transsexuals and whatnot. But
before I turned down my volume, I heard you talking about that teacher in Canada with the
with the enormous boobs.
Well, technically, those are
prosthetics.
Something you'd get at a sex toy store.
Yeah, not sure.
They're not even.
Yeah, but anyway, getting back to the what we were talking about, the norms of the norms of society have changed, and the way we arrive at the norms is changing too. One of the big things that has changed is the way that we exchange information. I think it's the biggest change of the 20th century. It's the biggest change, one of the biggest changes wrought by the internet, is that these priesthoods of information, the doctors, the lawyers, the dentists, the accountants, the people who studied for years, well, the walls are coming down, and laymen are finding out that they can know an awful lot more and make much more informed decisions about their medical care, their legal affairs, their financial affairs, every part of their life that had been pretty much dictated by the utterances of the priesthood of doctors, dentists, lawyers, and accountants. All the high professions, and it's extended to everything. I put a solenoid in maybe I would have done this before, but that's a reflection of who I am. In my washing machine, I put a component in and saved myself, a trip from a repairman who would have said, "Oh, your machine is toast. You got to buy a new one here." And fortunately, I sell them. I can have one out there tomorrow. and I saved my washing machine because I looked at an internet video for 10 minutes and said, oh, yeah, that's what's wrong. That kind of thing is happening more and more, and it's having a profound effect on society. At least I think it is. Is that just me?
I think experience still counts for a lot. Because information is one thing. Being able to actually, I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's measured on structure of intellect and a few other tests. But, there's a big difference between recall and synthesis. And so being able to synthesize information is a much higher level of intellection than just recalling something.
No doubt about that. And there is a place where these priests of the profession, do actually have knowledge that they've gained by discipline and work and so forth, to where they add the value that we expect someone in that profession to add. I'm not trying to do an appendectomy on anybody, even though I can watch them all day long on YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
you still need your 10,000 hours is basically the deal.
You do to be an expert at it. But there is a lot of useful information that is available to people that was not available to them before the internet, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So there's a corollary to the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour thing. It's not a Malcolm Gladwell thing, but it's somebody else brought it up. I'm trying to remember who it was. But basically, it takes you 10,000 hours to master something.
Yeah.
But there are an awful lot of things you can get pretty darn good at in 10. And so basically, if you're somebody who can focus for 10 hours on one topic, the internet is a fantastic thing.
Absolutely.
And that's the real power of it.
Can I try to explain what I think Skep was trying to say?
Sure.
We no longer, for the simple things, the normal things that you would have called a maintenance man to your house, we can now watch a video
and do it ourselves.
So it saves time, money, and it's not that we're trying to short the maintenance man, it's that the maintenance man is charging my kid's college fund. I mean, I wouldn't expect, if the washer was, I don't know.
Well, I was trying to fix a washer. I wasn't trying to learn how to play the violin. And by the way, 10,000 hours on the violin is called a good start. But all I wanted to do was make my washer work again, and I was able to watch a simple video. Hey, this always happens with this particular washer, and it's this if this is happening, you're getting this code on your little LED thing. Then this is the component that isn't working. You go out, and with a screwdriver you can fix it.
We've put new motors in our washer machines.
Sure.
Because it would take...
Not to get too far down into the washing machine. That's just an example of what we're talking about.
Oh, I know. I'm just...
But he's talking about this guy, Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote a book called Outliers, but he's misspelled it into one word, Outliers. And the rule goes like this. It takes 10,000 hours of intensive practice to achieve mastery of complex skills. I'm quoting Gladwell. And materials like playing the violin or getting as good as Bill Gates at computer programming. By the way,
wouldn't take that long.
I was just going to say, Harry, are you there yet?
Bill Gates is not a good programmer, but anyway, go on.
He was at the time. I will give him that. At the time that summer he wrote that operating system, he was decent. He was decent that year.
He didn't write it. He's not the one that wrote it. He bought it from somebody and then juiced it a little bit.
Well, Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, he's more like Edison. Yeah, I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. He's more like Edison in that regard.
Yeah, more of a. Who was the New Zealand physicist? What the hell was his name? I hate being old.
Kiwi McKiwi face? I don't know.
Yeah, you're going to laugh when I say his name. New Zealand physicist.
What did he do?
Rutherford, Ernest Rutherford.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't a significant guy, Harry. You probably never heard of him.
Yeah, I haven't heard of Rutherford.
Yeah, he died only 15 years before I was born. Just missed Ernest Rutherford. Hard to believe. Anyway, I'm getting pretty far afield.
So what about Rutherford? You were going to compare him to Edison or Gates.
Yeah, to Edison. When I think of Edison, I think of Ernest Rutherford. I think Rutherford was an experimentalist. He was much more an experimentalist than he was a theoretician. Even though he's remembered for the theories that his experiments produced. So when you said Edison, I thought, yeah, Rutherford. Except I could remember what he looked like, and I couldn't remember his name. This is what happens when you get old. The first steps of senility or subtlety, you start forgetting. For me to not know who Ernest Rutherford is, it's. I probably have read more about Ernest Rutherford than I have about Thomas Edison. My God, and I went to Thomas Edison High School. So, anyway,
I went to JFK elementary school.
So,
sorry.
No.
Wanted to be part of the conversation.
It's all good.
You're trying to trick me into showing those class pictures. I can tell.
Well, yeah.
I've seen a picture of you.
You have. But anyway, what were you saying, Skep?
Well, I should be polite and ask Jenna, how was your day today? Did you do anything?
I got the glorious nerve blocks.
You sound better.
I love nerve blocks.
They really help, don't they?
They truly do. And today, though, I had a woman who I've gone to before, but because my other person was out, and she was pushing all on my shoulders, of course, and then down my back, and she hit every muscle with that lidocaine, or not the lidocaine, the lidocaine, and then I can move my neck again. It's glorious.
Yeah, I had those when I injured my leg. It's a semi-serious long distance runner. Tore up my knee, and you find out about joint pain. Joint pain will no pun intended, will bring you to your knees, and having the thought at first of having somebody stick a needle into the joint of your knee seems awful until you're in bad enough pain where you'll say, I'll do anything, and the effect is dramatic. It's just freaking amazing.
Yeah,
so I'm glad that you have that, and it I think it makes you it perks you up quite a bit. And you're not in so much pain.
Perk me up because it's nice to be relieved. I mean, I do not have a migraine at the moment.
What a
that I can feel.
A pleasure.
It's just something that this is everyday life for people.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder people are happier.
Well, yeah. It's amazing
So
that you're as happy as you are in your situation. That's one of the things that attests to your character. Not to embarrass you, but
no, that doesn't embarrass me.
I'm a one-person Jenna Admiration Society, so there you go. But anyway, go ahead.
I had two choices: sit there and pout and let it defeat me, or sit there. Well, yeah, we're just gonna sit in both scenarios and figure out how to live with it and not be a whiny twat.
Gotcha.
Although I do whine occasionally.
In other words, in other news, I will share with you the funniest name of any New Zealand physicist I have ever heard is David Beaglehole.
Beaglehole?
Beaglehole.
That's his name. David Beaglehole. I don't even know what to say.
Beaglehole.
I think if that was a woman's name and then she married a guy named Biggerstaff, that would be outstanding, because think of that as
a hyphenated name.
Exactly. Claudine Biggerstaff -Beaverhole.
You two are horrible.
It's Beaglehole, just to be correct, but and
what did I say?
Beaver hole, which is a completely different meaning.
That's excellent.
That's the hole that the beavers use to get in and out of that.
And out of the den, or the
that they build in the dam. That's why they build the dams, is to build the freaking den. Anyway, be that as
it's a den with wood paneling, so I mean, it's what's not to like.
It's exactly straight out of the 1970s. But whatever happened to wood paneling? I'm glad it's gone. I'm so glad it's gone.
See, this is where we have to disagree. I've got some wood paneling in my dining room, and I desperately want to take the paint that's on here right now and strip it all off.
Well, there's paneling and paneling.
I'm not talking about knotty pine. I'm talking about, like, it's probably not mahogany. It's probably some kind of teak.
Yeah, I grew up in knotty pine.
No, knotty pine is not good.
And I am just done with it. It's just an aesthetic thing on my part.
I have wood paneling.
I have nothing against wood paneling.
In the living room. We hate it. My dad's dad, though, when my grandparents got divorced, actually, throughout his life, whenever they would go up to Deep Dark Nowhere, Maine, they'd stay in a log cabin, and it's the closest Mom would let him get to the log cabin.
Now, log cabins have wood paneling, natural wood paneling, and I have no problem with that at all.
But living in a log cabin is awesome. Living in a house where your living room has paneling and you keep it up because your father worked really hard and you took a boat and you lost, is different.
Absolutely. So anyway, getting back to our discussion, Harry, you said you had a couple of items you thought you might like to bring up.
Well, one of them was the whole thing with the Walter Wendy Carlos thing.
Yeah, let's were you done talking about that, or did you have more to say?
Well, I mean, there's one little nuance to this, which is back when Walter became Wendy in I think it was the late 70s, early 80s, somewhere in that in that time frame.
I thought it was the 70s, but
I know it's before. Right. I know it was before. Yeah, I know it was no later than the early 80s. There really wasn't a whole lot of upside. You had to be pretty miserable and pretty determined to go through with something like that. now there's
1972 was her gender confirmation surgery.
So now we've got people, cheering folks on from the sidelines and offering all sorts of incentives, which in the case of lonely, screwed up young people, has the potential to convince people to do irreparable harm to themselves. If you took a kid and you just took them to the doctor and said, I want you to make this kid into a eunuch, the doctor would say, oh, wait a second. You can't do that to your kid. That would be child abuse. But if you go in and just say the magic words, then that's totally okay. Right? You can just totally do that. And and that isn't something that happens commonly. I mean, I don't know they don't do that to little kids commonly, but I mean, there are some pretty young cases.
That it happens is awful.
I just don't want Susan to think I'm saying something that I'm not.
Well, here's the thing. Kids say a lot of things about being boys and being girls. And if you are the type of parent who, when your little boy says, boy, I don't like having those things down there. I got hit between the legs today and it hurt. I wish I didn't have those things. And you say, you're obviously having gender dysphoria. Your gender is making you dysphoric, and you have the brain of a cat, which is what half of these people do. It's amazing to me that they reproduce, and they go running to some activist MD who says, "Oh yeah, this is definitely very serious. You great that you caught it," and so this stupid parent is going to get all these wonderful strokes from someone they really respect. A doctor is going to tell them they're a good person for doing this. They're doing the right thing. They never felt any better or holier or, finer and more convinced that they were doing the right thing for their youngster than chopping off his little penis and delaying his puberty and doing things to the child that cause irreversible change, damaging that child potentially. Yeah. And we're starting to get a crop of people who are have buyer's remorse, particularly about the confirming surgery.
Well, we know there's, some people who have genuine dysphoria.
Right.
And so all we're really talking about here is what should the process be? Like, for instance, if you're talking about somebody who's above the age of 18, don't care. Mm-hmm. None of my business.
Right.
If you're talking about somebody who's younger than the age of 18, to my mind, if the parents are not on board with it, because we've got this stuff going on with these activists and the kids, at the very least, the kid should have to become an emancipated minor. In the same way that this thing happened, you should have to go in front of a judge and make your case to an adult human being whose job it is to make judgments about people and things like this.
I couldn't agree more.
And then
that's absolutely right.
If you go through that process and you can be declared an emancipated minor such that you can pursue having a medical thing done without the consent of your parents, as we've done with every other thing of its type except for this one, then fine. It's not a perfect system. There are going to be wacko judges who sign off on things that they shouldn't, and it's not going to be perfect, but it might be the least shitty option. And I think that sometimes that's all you have is what's the least bad option.
Right.
Here's my stance.
Okay.
If you're off my health insurance and you're over the age of 18, do what you want. If you're under the age of 18, you're going through, you don't have a choice but to
do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Let me say this about that. I'm with you probably 99.9% of the time. Every once in a while, you will get a person who truly, for whatever reason, is a poor match for their gender and is obviously a better match for a different gender. I don't think it happens very often. And I say this as somebody, this is in my family. I mean, my wife's oldest, her son is completely transitioned in and lives her life as a female, and we honor that choice and refer to her as her. But it's it's so uncommon. It's so unbelievably uncommon to have a legitimate case of this that most of what I really believe, and I don't have any statistics to back this up. It's great when people make assertions like this, but I don't have statistics to back this up. But it would not surprise me if virtually all of the transing that you read about in the popular press, not virtually all of it, but a great majority of it is trans trenders, is people who just want the attention. You know that is a phenomenon because that's become a source of cultural capital to say that you're trans, to say that you're living that brave, important life, and all the other things that these fool sociologists claim make you important for, doing that. Anyway, you have people who have never been important in any way in their life, and they're getting importance and attention and strokes, all the things that make the serotonin in our little minds flow and make us happy, make it possible for us to be even happier. And as a result, it's really distorting what that phenomenon actually is, and whatever medical advancements could be made to alleviate the condition that these people are in. Because let me tell you, when it's legitimate, it is absolutely crippling.
There's two ways of experiencing this. There's you've got a person in front of you that you know well, right? And they come to you with a situation, and then you're emotionally involved at that point, right? If it's somebody that you know and you care about. And then there's the more abstract discussion about things that other people do that have nothing to do with you. You've never met them. You're just taking their word for it. Like I said, dealing with trust, Right. And how do I know that this person, can I trust somebody if I don't trust them to make an objective decision? Like a kid, brain's not fully formed. They've got all this social pressure coming on them to do one thing or the other. You just don't know what the thing is. So when you talk about Leah Thomas and swimming, I have absolutely no interest whatsoever, vested or otherwise, in women's college swimming. It is something that is so unimportant to me that it's unbelievable. But when I see something, the little part of the animal part of my brain says, that seems unfair to me.
Right.
Right. So I get offended by that. That seems unfair to me. And when I see a lot of people doing something that I think may be harming themselves, even though I have absolutely no involvement, I don't have a dog in this fight, I don't have a horse in this race, it's not anything that has anything to do with me personally. I just look at it as a problem-solving human going, okay, we all want everybody to be happy. I just think that your solution isn't fit for purpose. And then I open my big mouth and I place myself at professional risk,
jeopardy,
by even opening my mouth. There is nothing but downside for me in even talking about this.
Yes, that's
that's
true.
It just offends me that I think people are being hurt, because when I see people solving a problem incorrectly, I just want to do, the IT guy thing where you just walk up, to their chair and just go, move.
That's straight out of a Dilbert comment.
Yeah. Let's talk about how your solution is not fit for purpose, and I think for a lot of people,
God, I know that.
There's a lot, because it's like, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't affect me at all, but at the same time, it offends me because I care about other human beings, even the ones that are not right in front of me. And I hate this idea that there are so many people suffering, whether they're suffering from the dysphoria or whether they're suffering from the treatment for something that may not have been dysphoria. I'm
Right.
not a big fan of human suffering, and it's especially when it's so avoidable.
Exactly.
And it's the only reason I even say anything about it, because like I said,
Well,
I care, but at the same time, I don't
I have
care,
a
but
I
I
have
care.
I have a fearless prediction about it. I think this is going to fade into obscurity. And the reason that it will fade into obscurity is women. Women are going to start pushing back. And back when I used to follow Magdalene Burns, back when she was alive, Magdalene Burns, for anybody who doesn't know, was the prototypical TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminist. She's a radical feminist and a little bit of a friend of mine. Certainly had some friendly exchanges on Twitter and followed each other up till her death. But was she? How to put this? She was the first one to come out and really point out what women had to lose with the transgenders coming in, and she looked at it from she wanted to have female only spaces. She didn't want to have somebody who she considered to be a man walking into a female only space, and you're starting to see this in health clubs and things like that. Guys are not guys; they're women. They are women. They're women, just as though they had been born with a uterus. They are women because they identify that way. We must do this. These women who had been born with a penis and have big masculine beards and stuff are walking into women's dressing rooms and taking videos. And there's nothing that anyone can do about this, at least out in Los Angeles, where this is being reported. Now, I'm sure part of this is just attention getting type nonsense, but I think women have a good case to make for women only spaces, and I was very much allied with Magdalene when she was alive. There, women like to have that women only vibe, and that women only vibe comes from all of the cultural norms, all the societal experiences and family experiences, and just the experience of growing up as a woman, with that men, despite their desire to be women, just even those who are legitimately dysphoric and need to need to transition in order to be happier, they still don't have that same experience growing up a woman. Do you see what I'm saying?
No.
It's just a completely different socialization experience, or not completely different, but it's substantially different and different in some fundamental ways from men's socialization.
Well, they talk about intersections and lived experience, and then when it's inconvenient for them, they just sort of pretend that lived experience doesn't matter.
Yes, lived experience is only good when it supports my point of view, and the fact that it works against me 80% of the time. I demand that you change the laws to require yourself to disregard that. I mean, that's kind of the world we're living in right now.
As the only woman who went from womanhood through on this, I was going to say panel, but I don't think it's a panel, on this whatever, going from girlhood to womanhood in those tween early teen ages is It's like lighting a firework and it escaping and just going all over, somehow getting into the house and just starting stuff on fire accidentally, and because your emotions are so
Powerful.
1 second, oh, it's a beautiful, happy day. The next second,
Volatile
everyone
change.
hates me. Why can't anyone love me? My mom's out to get me. And
Men
it's,
have exactly the same feelings. We're required to say that. Men have all those feelings too.
yes,
In
I've watched,
exactly the same numbers, with exactly the same frequency.
I have no idea what
yes,
you're talking
of
about.
course.
I assume that's sarcasm.
Yes, that was
Uh,
sarcasm.
Yes.
that wasn't sarcasm.
Trademark.
That was the
Trademark.
truth.
No, men do not have the
Susan.
same feelings. We have our own messed up problems that we have to deal with, and they actually are different.
But it doesn't have anything to do with our genetics or our secondary sex characteristics or anything sexual about us. It is simply lived experience, right, Harry?
More sarcasm. Yes, good.
You're starting to pick up on it.
Yeah, slowly.
I can't even be nice about it. I can't even. It makes me so frustrated to see public discourse be brought to such a low as it has been. We really are to the point where we shout at each other like enemy politicians. There's very little discussion. And you can go on Twitter and even invite in discussion, but as soon as somebody finds out, where you come from on an issue, you just get sorted into the camp, and Twitter's algorithms tend to keep you sorted into camps. Conservatives a little bit more than liberals, but Twitter is a hug box incubator, in my opinion. It just
all
grows
social
hug boxes.
media. All social media is
social
basically
media
a
is
hug
weird.
box. Now, even without the filtering, people will still form cliques and reinforce each other.
Yes.
So,
It's just social media just makes it so amazingly efficient and easy. You don't even have to get out of your recliner.
well, like your friend said, there are no gatekeepers anymore.
Right. And broadly, I think that is a good thing. Now, my friend from school, he thinks it's a bad thing, but he's, one of the senior priests of the information stuff. And I think it isn't that he doesn't want people to know; it's that he wants to keep responsible control on things. He's somebody who believes that government has a responsibility to control your life and offer you healthful choices from
No,
which you may
thank you.
select to live your life. But that government is definitely leading. It's not people leading the government. It's the libertarian position. This is more the government leading the people, which to me, in unkind moments, I call the fascist position. I don't know. I'm probably just popping off at this point.
Did you see Matt Walsh's What is a
No.
Woman?
No, I did not.
I need to rant about Matt Walsh again. And this is something that might come up on Saturday.
He's not my favorite.
Things have gotten so bad that people who normally would have just been considered midwits at best are now sort of being held up as some kind of thought leaders. The idea that society has gotten so dumb that Matt Walsh can be a thought leader
Oh my God.
is just an indication of how far things have fallen.
You are so right.
Matt Walsh is not a smart dude.
He's
And
not.
he's
I
not
never
really
claimed
he's
he
not really all that
was.
perceptive, but he's perceptive enough to know that trans-trenders may have an issue. There may be issues with them. And you notice I said trans-trender.
Yep. and you're exactly right.
Can I just? He did a document. What is a woman?
Yes.
Where he went to Africa. Well, he went to many places, but he went to Africa and spoke with a tribe, and the tribe didn't understand, even through a translator, what the heck he was talking about, a woman becoming a man. And people who had issues with how dare you ask what a woman is said that he found the only tribe in all of Africa to not be fully
Totally on board
inclusive.
with inclusion. Yeah, that's like the Dahomey. Everybody's pronouncing it that way, so I will too. The Dahomey people, you know. Don't get me started on this, but they made a movie about these supposedly Amazons who lived in Dahomey, Africa, and that country had sold so many of its young men into slavery that the women were keeping the peace. They were the police force. That's the genesis of that movie. And they were actually pro-slavery. I mean, the movie is completely made up with respect to
Skep,
everything.
how dare you suggest that? How dare you suggest that black people were pro-slavery?
They were. Where do you think the slaves came from?
Well,
the slaves
I know
came
that
from Africa because
my
the Africans liked having booze and nice things, things that came from Europe.
Well, I know this, but if you were ever to ask a progressive this, oh, you're lying.
Yeah, but it depends. I hear a lot of people saying stupid things about history, and as long as we don't change what's written down, we can fight it. As long as we don't change the documentation. But if we start rewriting history, and somebody was actually suggesting that we should, because the history was better that came from the movie, wouldn't it make sense to have better history in our history books to make better people? I mean, doesn't that kind of make sense? Why do we have to have all this negativity in history? Why can't we write history the way maybe it should have been? A better history.
Yeah.
What's wrong with
the Netflix version of history?
Yeah, like a Netflix version. Netflix would be they would be one of Disney could help. I mean, there are a lot of resources that could go in to making our world better by making the history better.
Do you know
no more white people, no more Europe. We can say that Europe doesn't exist.
No, I have your slogan for you, Skep.
Why
should we be slaves to history when history can be working for us?
God, that could be the beginning of
I'm not letting Eric hear that.
Let's rewrite history so that it serves us instead of us serving it.
But that's not how it. This bugs me so much because it just.
The world according to AOC.
Yeah.
The world according to the real governor of Georgia.
Jenna, we're never going to get anywhere if you just focus on all the things we can't do.
Well, okay, here's something for you. I don't know if either one of you know about this, but do you know who Lizzo is?
I'm familiar.
The flutist? Yes, I know her.
It's the flutist. So she said
She's shaped like a cello, but she
Six.
plays the flute.
She actually did a really nice, I think it was the Bumblebee one.
Yep.
I want to see her
In-
play it on the tuba.
In fully clothed, not in the concert. And then she was allowed in Washington to bring it out and use it as she twerked at a concert.
Yes,
Now,
that
the James
that was
Madison
James
crystal.
Madison's crystal
Yep.
flute. Yeah, blood crystal flute.
Here are my issues. First of all, a month ago you said you were oppressed. If I go up and say, can I play the James Madison flute? They're going to tell me, no, go away or we'll arrest you.
Well, it's because you're not Lizzo.
I won't talk about the outfit or how it shouldn't. But
I mean, they have,
that,
you know, they could tell you're not Lizzo by measuring your gravitational field.
Every time she puts on something with buttons, it's a form of a trust fall.
Nice.
Actually, do you
She
know how I
expects a lot
travel?
from those buttons, doesn't she?
Do you know how I travel? I just get into one of her folds and I travel for feet free.
That's right. Can become a phrase. Tougher than Lizzo's zipper.
But
Oh,
Zipper's
it's
tough
horrible.
enough for Lizzo.
how are
I
you
shouldn't-
oppressed, but you're able to play James Madison's crystal? He was the founding father. Just
The Federalist Papers, all that stuff. Yes, you know.
Yeah.
Federalist number 10.
He didn't do as many as Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah, but he wrote number 10.
He wrote a good. Yeah, I know. I was being just jerky.
But that notwithstanding, we've gone an hour tonight, and I think that's about all I have in me. But before we leave, did you guys have anything else you want to talk about?
There's always more stuff to talk about, but there's always more nights to talk about it.
Well,
Start a petition saying let Jen play the crystal clarinet from James Madison.
Oh, you had a crystal clarinet too. We'll do it. We'll do it.
Wasn't it crystal?
I think it was a crystal flute.
It was a crystal flute. Yeah.
Yeah, a crystal flute, not a clarinet.
That's what I meant.
It would be a bear getting the, you know,
That
you have
would
a
be a
crystal
whore.
clarinet, but you can't have a crystal reed. Do crystals vibrated or particular? No, I'm not going to go down that road.
All right, I have.
That was for Harry.
That episode of Star Trek was pretty lame, I gotta tell you.
Start a petition that any crystal instruments belonging to the founding father, I get to play.
All right, that's fair.
That
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Who was it had the expensive piano?
William Taft's crystal harmonica.
Yeah, William Howard Taft's crystal bathtub. He actually had a special bathtub installed in the White House because the bathtub that was there was too small for him. He weighed over 300 pounds, and he couldn't sit down in the bathtub.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't particularly care what Lizzo's weight is. That's between her and her zipper and her buttons and her doctor and her bathroom scale. It's really not a big deal. I do sort of care about the fact that she's trying to normalize that her size, the sort of healthy at any size thing. I think she's one of those people, isn't she?
Yeah,
Yes.
very much so. Fat acceptance.
So she's giving
She's
people
like
remarkably
leader of
bad
it.
advice.
Well, the thing of it is, she's a legit flute player.
Yeah.
She is legitimately, you know, a serious flutist. I'm not good enough to know, you know, enough about technique and stuff to know if she's really top of the top notch, but she played some pretty serious stuff. And when people see somebody doing that, it gives her more credibility. That
You know-
bothers me.
You know what she should do?
Hmm.
She should do an album of Jethro Tull's greatest hits by
Oh,
Lizzo.
I'm kidding.
I think that would be hilarious.
Can you imagine her hopping around the
What?
stage like Ian does?
Yes, I can. And that's exactly why I suggested it.
The forged titanium stage. It's one solid
Oh,
piece. We think she
Goodness
won't damage it.
gracious.
Nah, I'm good. We can end whenever you're ready, Skep. What do you?
Alright, well,
Are you okay, Jenna?
Yep, as long as we got my position
Alright.
started.
Yep. Crystal instruments for Jenna. Check.
Absolutely. Well, with that important commentary, we're going to close it for tonight. I do want to thank my panel for coming out and being with me. Jenna and Harry, thank you for spending some time with me. Chat, thank you for coming out and listening. I appreciate that. Made my birthday a special one. And
Happy birthday!
yeah, I'll be 70 years old tomorrow. So
Well,
yeehaw.
I won't be on the
in
stream
18
tomorrow.
minutes.
So can I badly sing to you now?
Go ahead.
Happy birthday, Skep. Happiness will come to you. You're invited, which it would be happy birthday to you from me.
Thank you. That was the sweetest thing. It's the only person who sung to me today. Thank you so much.
Well,
and with
it's
that,
my birthday.
With that beautiful rendition, folks, we are going to call it a night. Thanks for coming out, and we'll do it again next week. Catch us on Saturday also for Harry's show, and that's going to do it for tonight. The zoo's closed. Good night, everybody.
Bon voyage.
Night.
Yeah.